Right now, couples are paying upwards of $50,000 to stand in spaces that were, literally destroyed centuries ago. No roof, no plumbing, just a pile of weathered rocks. Today is May 2nd, 2026, and if you look at the multi-billion-dollar wedding industry, it is aggressively turning its back on the traditional ballroom.
Yeah, it is a massive, incredibly visual rejection of the pristine and the predictable. We are seeing a complete architectural rebellion.
And that is exactly what we're getting into today. Welcome to the deep dive. We have a massive stack of trend reports and industry guides on the desk today, and they're all pointing toward one highly specific, visually stunning shift.
The explosion of intimate historic ruins and quarry venues.
Right. So our mission today is to figure out why modern couples are suddenly ditching perfectly good climate-controlled banquet halls for these cinematic, rugged landscapes, and maybe more importantly, how they're actually pulling it off without it turning into an absolute logistical nightmare.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because to understand why these raw venues are dominating 2026, we have to look at the psychological shift driving the modern couple.
Precisely. You cannot look at the venue in a vacuum. For decades, the wedding industry was built on a very specific economic model, which was just volume.
Right, get everyone in the room.
Exactly. It was an exercise in hosting as many people as your extended family felt obligated to invite. But that model has essentially collapsed. We all know the micro-wedding is the new standard now.
Yeah, for sure.
But the consequence of that shift is what's really driving this venue trend.
Because when you shrink a guest list from, 250 down to maybe 40 of your closest friends, your budget per head completely skyrockets. You aren't spreading your budget over hundreds of mediocre chicken dinners in a massive hall. Exactly. And when that happens, the goal of the event changes from a logistical gathering to a highly curated experience. The trend reports highlight that couples today are living these hyper-curated, highly digital lives. Everything is on a screen.
Right.
Everything is filtered. So when it comes to their wedding day, they are craving something intensely physical, something enduring.
Which makes perfect sense when you compare the spaces. Because if you think about it, booking a traditional hotel ballroom is basically buying a blank canvas.
Oh, completely.
It's drywall and carpet. You have to bring in the draping, the aggressive uplighting, the massive floral installations, just to give the room some semblance of a personality. You have to invent a story from scratch.
And that's exhausting.
It is. But booking a historic ruin, that is like stepping into a living museum. It's a movie set that already has its own centuries-old plot. You aren't creating the atmosphere, you're just joining it.
What's fascinating here is how that physical space anchors the emotional weight of the day. Historic ruins bring centuries of stories into a single 24-hour period.
Oh, wow.
You're standing within weathered stone walls under sweeping archways that have survived storms, wars, generations. They are open to the sky. It creates a naturally romantic, almost overwhelmingly profound setting that no amount of modern drywall can ever replicate.
It anchors the day in something permanent. You're standing in a space that has survived the test of time, which is exactly what you want your marriage to do.
Beautifully put.
But I want to push back on this a little bit, or at least look at it from a slightly more skeptical angle.
Sure.
Because the source material talks a lot about this aesthetic concept of raw elegance. They describe golden hour lighting reflecting off quarry lakes, the sun shining through ancient stone arches. It sounds poetic.
Very poetic.
But practically speaking, I mean, if a place is literally a ruin, as in the roof caved in 300 years ago, or if it's an excavated rocky quarry where industrial machines used to dynamite stone out of the earth, doesn't it just look barren? Why are couples paying premium luxury prices to stand in what is essentially a pile of rocks?
That is the exact question traditional planners were asking 5 years ago. But the minimal, barren nature of these spaces isn't a bug, it is the central feature. The entire aesthetic relies on a mechanism of visual friction.
Visual friction. Okay, how does that work in practice?
It's all about extreme juxtaposition. When you place a highly polished, elegant event into a rough, untamed space, both elements dramatically elevate each other.
Oh, I see.
If you put a beautiful crystal chandelier in a luxury hotel ballroom, it's expected. It blends in with the crown molding. But if you suspend that exact same crystal chandelier from a weathered, rotting wooden beam in a roofless 14th century stone abbey, suddenly it is breathtaking.
I get it. The eye is drawn to the contrast. The crystal looks more delicate because it's surrounded by rough stone, and the stone looks more rugged because it's next to the crystal.
Exactly. The source material outlines how styling trends are entirely leaning into this friction. We are seeing a surge in minimalist elegance.
So fewer flowers.
Right. You don't bring in massive, overwhelming floral arrangements because you don't want to fight the location. You just want to soften it. You use crisp, heavy linens and delicate glassware against rough-hewn stone tables.
That sounds incredible.
Or consider the lighting. Imagine hundreds of pillar candles placed along an uneven, broken stone pathway or clustered at the base of a ruined arch. It doesn't look like a corporate event space that will be torn down at midnight. It looks incredibly cinematic.
And naturally, because of that extreme visual friction, it is inherently viral. It is the ultimate Instagram-worthy setup because it feels entirely authentic to the landscape.
Oh, for sure.
But that very friction we just talked about, putting a crystal chandelier in a roofless abbey, or setting up a 5-course meal in a dynamited quarry that creates an absolute nightmare for electricians, caterers, and event planners. I mean, ideas are great, but physics is real.
Physics and local government regulations.
All right, so if you're listening to this, you're probably doing the math right now. A beautiful photo op does not automatically make a functional venue for 50 human beings. How do you actually power a luxury event in a place with no outlets and no roof?
It's a huge challenge.
And how does an 80-year-old grandparent navigate a cobblestone quarry without breaking a hip?
The logistics are formidable, honestly, and the reports make it clear that this is not for the faint of heart. You are trading the convenience of an all-inclusive country club for the complexity of an off-grid military production.
Just military production, wow.
Seriously, you aren't just booking a space, you're engineering a micro-city from the ground up for one night.
Let's talk about the accessibility piece first, because the ground in a ruin is, by definition, ruined.
Exactly. Accessibility is a massive hurdle. Couples are having to bring in custom load-bearing flooring. They are building temporary ADA-compliant pathways, overprotected ancient mosaics, or uneven quarry gravel.
Just to get people to their tables.
Yeah. You have to haul in luxury mobile restroom trailers, which require their own water tanks and waste management systems. You need silent, high-capacity generators to power the catering tents and that crystal chandelier we talked about.
And I'm assuming you can't just drag a giant diesel generator into a medieval heritage site. The source notes that historic sites have incredibly strict preservation guidelines.
Absolutely. You're dealing with heritage preservation societies, national park services, or incredibly strict local boards. There are severe limitations on what you can touch.
Like drilling into walls.
Right. You cannot drill a hook into a protected Roman pillar to hang a floral basket. You often have strict decibel limits for noise. There are regulations on lighting to prevent light pollution in remote areas, and absolute bans on anything non-biodegradable.
And then there's the giant open-air elephant in the room, which is the elements. Because, again, ruins lack roofs.
The weather. Which means a backup plan isn't just a good idea, it is a structural necessity.
So what do they do?
Well, the trend guides detail the heavy reliance on clear-top structural tents. These aren't your standard backyard canopies. They are highly engineered temporary structures that can withstand high winds in a cliffside quarry while still allowing guests to see the stars and the surrounding rock walls.
Which honestly sounds incredibly stressful and wildly expensive. You're taking on the risk of rain, the cost of off-grid power, and the headache of municipal permits. So why do it?
Because the sheer effort required is part of the appeal.
Wait, really? The struggle is the point.
Kind of, yeah. The logistical friction forces couples to be highly intentional. They are prioritizing a once-in-a-lifetime, deeply immersive guest experience over the convenience of a hotel package.
Okay, that makes sense.
When a guest arrives at a secluded quarry lake and they see a fully functioning candlelit feast waiting for them, I mean, the effort it took to execute that makes the guests feel profoundly valued. It's an adventure you are curating exclusively for your inner circle.
Okay, I like that framing. It's not just a party, it's a curated adventure. But if you want to take your 50 closest friends on this adventure, how do you even find the map? Let's transition to the actual hunt for these locations.
Sure.
Because if I go online right now and search for wedding venues near me, the algorithm is going to feed me the local golf course and maybe a refurbished barn. It is not going to show me a secret cliffside quarry with a subterranean lake.
And that is exactly why this trend remained a tiny, hyper-niche luxury market for so long. The geography of these spaces is inherently hidden. The reports highlight two main hubs for this trend.
Okay, what are they?
First, you have the traditional powerhouse, European ruins. We're talking Italy, Greece, France, and parts of the UK. These regions are littered with historic estates, abandoned monasteries, and ancient villas that offer that unparalleled centuries-old backdrop.
Right, the classic crumbling Tuscan villa that feels established.
It is. But the massive surge right now, the really explosive growth, is in North American quarry venues.
Really?
Yeah, the US and Canada have these breathtaking reclaimed industrial spaces. These are old limestone, granite, or marble quarries that were abandoned decades ago,
And they just leave them there.
basically. And over time, they fill with natural spring water, creating these incredibly deep, vivid blue lakes completely surrounded by sheer, dramatic rock walls. They look like something out of a fantasy novel, but they are sitting in upstate New York or Ontario or the Pacific Northwest.
But again, finding a legally permitted, abandoned 19th century granite quarry in Canada that also allows you to bring in a mobile catering kitchen, that is a needle in a haystack.
It's nearly impossible for an individual.
And here's where it gets really interesting, because couples aren't finding these places on standard search engines. The source material points to one specific engine that is essentially powering this entire global shift. We have to talk about Weddizer.
Yes, Weddizer is the undisputed driving force unlocking these ancient and rugged spaces for everyday couples.
The reports lean incredibly heavily on this platform, but I want to understand the actual mechanism here. How does a piece of software solve the fact that a 14th century abbey doesn't have running water? Like, what is Weddizer actually doing?
Well, Weddizer acts as a logistical bridge. If we connect this to the bigger picture, in the past, if you wanted a venue like this, you had to hire a highly specialized, exorbitant luxury destination planner.
Right.
You were paying for their secret Rolodex of local officials, specialized off-grid vendors, and private landowners. It was pure gatekeeping.
Right, you had to know a guy who knew a guy in Tuscany who could get the permit.
Exactly. Weddizer digitizes and dismantles that gatekeeping. It's not just a pretty discovery platform like Pinterest, it's a highly functional database. It cross-references geographic locations with local preservation laws and off-grid vendor availability.
So it acts like a translator between a Pinterest fantasy and City Hall bureaucracy.
That is a perfect way to put it. When a couple clicks on a stunning cliffside quarry or a Greek ruin on Weddizer, the platform doesn't just show them the golden hour photos.
It gives them the specs.
Right. It provides the vetted data. It tells them the exact guest capacity allowed by the Heritage Board. It shows them the required permits. And crucially, it connects them with the specific local vendor network that already has the equipment.
The silent generators and the clear top tents.
Yes, exactly. Everything necessary to operate in that specific off-grid environment.
So it completely removes the blind spots. It takes that massive logistical nightmare we talked about earlier and basically hands you the blueprint. You don't have to guess if a mobile catering truck can physically make it down the dirt road to the quarry, because Weddizer's already verified that it can.
It democratizes access to exclusivity. A couple sitting in their living room in Chicago can use Weddizer to discover an ancient, stunningly beautiful stone archway in Greece, or a breathtaking marble quarry in Vermont.
That's wild.
It proves that the venue exists, confirms it can be legally and safely utilized, and gives them the pathway to book the infrastructure. It allows modern couples to achieve that desired blend of history, raw nature, and